just that you know. So, welcome to Cafe Hour. Cafe Hour is actually on a temporary break while the communications team is reinventing it. But we have a lot of TLS Notary updates, so we organized this extra edition. So, welcome everybody. Feel free to ask questions or if you have feedback on what we're discussing. And like I mentioned, this session is recorded. So, what do we have on the agenda today? Lots of chatting, updates from the TLS Notary team. So, what we have been working on and what we will be working on next. And then Tsukino will also give a demo on all the progress we made for the browser extension. So maybe a special shout out to the TLS Notary team. So we have Dan, I see Sinu, I see Trauma, Tsukino, Thomas, Tyler. I hope I didn't skip anybody. So welcome everybody. So do we have questions before we kick off? No? Okay, then Sinu, I invite you for an
As there's
update
no,
on the release.
yeah, I'm surprised there's no when opticode questions. Yeah, I'll pull up just our release notes from the Alpha 6 that we just put out this week. Is my screen showing up?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I'll just briefly walk through it and maybe add a little bit extra detail to a couple of different things. Yeah, so we just put out Alpha 6. It is setting the groundwork for future upgrades. So a lot of it is kind of like internal refactoring behind the public API. We had a lot of changes going into MPZ, which is the MPC library that we use to build TLSNotary. So a lot of it is going into just setting up the capability to pre-process more and more stuff ahead of the actual like proving process where you're connecting to the server. So yeah, we got a bunch of work merged into MPZ, and we just got that integrated into TLSNotary in this release. You should see some improvements in like the online time. So the prover and the verifier, they'll connect and they'll do a bunch of pre-processing, and then they'll connect to the application server. So like this doesn't really affect like the total proving time, but it'll make sure that well, we should see less like timeouts with the application server during like the TLS handshake and so on and so forth. So the gist of it is that like the online time, the actual time that you're connected to the server should be reduced around like 30% on like higher latency connections between the prover and the verifier. We do know that some of our users were running into this, and this is a high priority for us right now because timeouts are totally show-stopping. If you're timing out, it just doesn't work. So we're working hard on fixing this. But yeah, we're not done. There's still more changes we're going to make to MPZ to make this better. And in a future TLSNotary release, yeah, we'll get even more stuff kind of pre-processed there, and timeout should just become a thing of the past. And yeah, on top of these MPZ changes, as well as yeah, on top of the MPZ changes, we redid the way that we do ghash in TLSNotary. So I'm not sure if any of you are familiar. There's another similar work out there from Paddle Labs, lightweight authentication of web data via garbled and proof. It's very similar to TLSNotary. And in their paper, they showed that a certain consistency check that we're doing in our protocol isn't actually necessary. So we were able to borrow this optimization from them, and it prevents, well, it stops the need from the prover revealing the MAC keys to the verifier after the TLS connection is closed. And yeah, this just provides a little bit better security guarantees for the prover, and it also, again, it reduces like total protocol time and is generally a lot cleaner. So yeah, huge shout out to Paddle Labs for talking with us on this, and yeah, we're happy that this rough edge is kind of worked out of the protocol. Uh, Next up is Notary Client. So Chris on our team put together a client implementation for our reference Notary server. Not everyone is using the Notary server necessarily, but we do have one there. It's just kind of like a simple some server that just hosts a Notary attestation service. But we never had like a client for actually interacting with it. That was always pretty manual and fairly arduous. But yeah, if you go to our examples now, I'm just looking at like our simple like Discord example. You can see the client in action. Just setting up like the notarization is a lot easier now. Now you just pass in some config and you call go, and it'll pass you back the connection to the notary and kind of handle that all for you. So yeah, it's a lot nicer experience. And yeah, that's most of what was put into this release. There's a couple other like odds and ends, just like refreshing some fixtures that we had that were causing people issues with like running tests and so forth. Um, yeah, so relatively small release, all things said at the end of the day, but we're definitely looking to start releasing at a higher frequency, and yeah. So as far as next priorities go, um, we know that a lot of people are still waiting for OptiCode. We have actually done a lot of the work that is needed to prep the release of OptiCode, but our attention got kind of shifted towards this timeout issue that we tackled in this release. But yeah, next couple of releases, we're going to be releasing changes to essentially like the attestation stuff from the notary side. A lot of the data structures that we have there aren't necessarily that well thought out. So we're going to have a fairly large refactoring to um, the, uh, the data structures and API for working with attestations. And this is different than the like direct prover verifier, like interactive proving flow that we have. This is specifically where a prover connects to a notary. The notary doesn't see like the server identity or any of the data, but he signs a attestation to a commitment. And yeah, a lot of that API is going to be reworked, and that's going to pave the way for a new commitment type, which is OptiCode. So we'll finally have a arithmetic hash function commitment to the plain text available. So yeah, keep an eye out. That's our coming up next on our focus here over the summer. And of course, some people are aware that we're also trying to get Quicksilver integrated as well. And yeah, that's still at top of the priority list, but we're trying to deliver some of these earlier promises right now, specifically OptiCode. So it's going to be a eventful summer. And yeah, I think that's all I had for core protocol updates. Maybe we can pause there. Anyone has any questions? Perfect. All right, I'll kick this over to Sakino, and he has some things to say about the extension.
Also, feel free to ask questions in the chat.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sukino. Share my screen. Um, we did quite a bit of update on the extensions. Uh, let's see. The first thing I want to show is the plugin system that we've implemented for the extension. So we have found out that a lot of teams are building on the extensions. One of the team has to fork the extension because they have to add some custom use case based on the way that they want the application to interact with the extension. So to kind of help application developer in our ecosystem better, um, we added the way to implement a plugin. that you can install on the extension. So a plugin is basically a WASM file, and I will show what that looks like in just a second. But now let me kind of demo the functionality here. Here, if I want to install a plugin, all I have to do is to um, select the WASM file. It will um, it will specify from a configuration what type of permission it will require from the extension. So in this case, this Twitter profile plugin that will create a proof of your Twitter profile name will request the following permissions. So if I allowed it, it will install the plugin, which I already have pre-installed before the workshops. And then you can simply interact with it now. So I'm going to open a new tab and select this. It uses the side panel API in the extension so that users can kind of go along with the progress of the proving flow while they are on the page that they want to notarize. I'm on x.com trying to notarize my profile name. And here it checked that step one is already done, which is to visit Twitter website. Now I have to make sure I have the cookie. And once it does, it will then automatically kick into notarize. On the right hand side here, I'm running a local notary server, and you can kind of see the progress here. Now it's done, and it created this proof that you can view, download, and share.
Takino, can you
Handshake.
zoom in a bit?
Which part?
The text is a bit small, but we grasp the idea. I don't know if zooming works here.
How about this?
Yeah, better. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. Yep. So yeah, I created a proof that you can view, download, share to people, and they will be able to verify your Twitter username, basically. Other than this plugin, Hendrik and Tanner also have created a few more that I'm not gonna show here. But what I will show is an example of what a plugin looks like. So here, a plugin is pretty straightforward. It's built using this project called Xtism, which allow you to compile any language to a WASM plugin that you can execute on any environment that can execute WASM. I chose to use JavaScript because that's the language I'm best in. And the key part of the plugin is this configuration files. So in the configuration files, it specifies some metadata such as title, description, and icon of the plugin for presentations. And then for the logic of the plugin, the developer have to specify steps. So this is a steps API that um, correspond to what is presented here, as well as the action that it takes on each steps. So for example, step one, we'll call this function called start. And in start, you can kind of see that what it's doing is to check to make sure we are on the correct host. If not, go to Twitter. And on here, step two is to grab cookies. Um, and the way that it grab cookies is by specifying the cookies that it will be injected to the plugin. So as part of the configuration JSON, you can specify which which cookie from which website. Well, the cookies that you want to access from a specific website. So in this case, I'm specifying api.x.com, and I want both cookies and headers to be accessible by this plugin. And then on this function step two, I am basically um, grabbing the cookies and headers from api.x.com that is stored by the extensions, doing some manipulation to grab the data that I want, and then construct a request object that I will later use to send a request to the notary. And finally, I'm calling notarize to submit a notarization request to the notary. It goes by a water flow logic, so whatever you return from step 1 will be passed into step 2 as a input, and whatever is returned from step 2 will be passed into step 3 as an input. With this kind of simple API, it should satisfy at least the use case that we have seen so far, that is being built by other teams. And if you're building a plugin or if you're an application developer that has other ideas that you wish to see from these plugin SDK, please reach out to me or anyone on the team, and I will try to incorporate it in future updates. Cool. So other than that, we also have added a content script that is injected by the extension. Um, so it's kind of similar to MetaMask, where you are able to interact with the extension via a client that is injected by the extensions. We have this injected client called TLSN, and if I call TLSN.connect, actually, let me do it on a website that I have never connected before. Um, yep, if I do it on here on a website that I never connected before, a pop-up will open and request access for me to connect to this website. It will tell the users the type of things that the website can do if a connection is granted. So I'm going to grant it. And then with this client object, I can basically request different things from the extensions. So for example, here I can request to see all history that has been notarized. Well, all notarization history done by the extensions. It will ask the users if they want to share it, and if they do, this will be returned back to their applications, and they will be able to see it. I can also use it to submit a notarization request. In this case, I'm trying to well, Google.com is trying to request a notarization to be done to this request URL. I can manipulate it just like how I normally do with the extensions. I can highlight to do some redactions and then click on notarize. And then after notarization is done, the proof will be returned back to the console. And there you go. The notarization is done and the proof is returned back to the client. So with this injected client, the goal is for um, application developer to be able to interact with the extensions, similar to how one would integrate with MetaMask, and then they can use it to like create notarizations, grab history, or if you have ideas that you think the extension should support, again, reach out to us. And that's kind of it.
Yeah, maybe it's worth reiterating that. So that's why the configuration is important, is to protect the end user, so that not malicious apps start doing random notarizations. Um, Tsukino, there was also a question whether the plugin info was already available on our GitHub repos. So there,
The
the
plugin info.
yeah, so the plugin source
Oh,
code. So
yeah.
there we made a new repository where you can get a boilerplate template to start a new plugin. and everything TLSNotary develops is open source. So the extension is also open source in the TLSN extension repository. Yeah. Okay, so are there more questions? Okay. Then we have some other random updates maybe. So we went to EDEM in April, and then we had our first hacker house near Amsterdam, which was a very nice gathering of the team and 10 early adopters, where we had plenty of engaging discussions about the protocol. It was a good thing that it was rainy weather because we got a lot of work done. So exciting times. Upcoming events. So one more week on, I think, July 11th on Thursday. We have a talk about TLSNotary at ECC. You can find us around noon at Hankar stage. Then after ECC in the weekend, there's EAT Global Brussels, so the hackathon, where we invite you to build on top of TLSNotary or to write extra plugins. We even have bounties for that. So if that's you're planning to do that, also feel free to reach out early on our Discord so that we can discuss your ideas. Then a bit further, some of us will be at AdCon in Japan the end of July. Then some of us will be at DWeb Camp. That's early August. And then the end of August, Chris will also be at eTokyo, Japan again. And then, of course, the most of us will also be in Southeast Asia, Bangkok, for DEF CON in November. So Dan asks, is there any plan for a next Hacker House? Nothing concrete, but it was such a success that we definitely want to repeat it. But that will be somewhere next year. More questions? IDs? Bugs you found? Don't be shy. Pete, do you feel comfortable giving a short pitch of the project you're working on?
Sure. I've been working on this business problem of invoice verification, proving as a client to someone who's financing your invoices by advancing you cash that your invoices are approved. And I actually yesterday, I wasn't sure if it was appropriate for this chat, but I did just deploy a verifier that works with a website called TradeShift. And I used systemd and log rotate to deploy it to a server. And I'm trying to figure out the best ways. And I know that we're not ready for production, but I am super motivated to get something working that I can start showing clients. And one thing I'd like to do is to load test that verifier that's sitting out there on DigitalOcean and see how many clients I could throw at it, or how many MPC sessions I could reasonably throw at it before it starts to tip over. So anyway, the business problem is showing your funders, your financiers, that your invoices are approved without having to have them log in as you. The practice traditionally in this business is for you as the client to hand over your passwords and even take a phone call from your funder when they need your MFA code so they can log in as you to do that kind of verification, which is of course ridiculous. So this is a way to improve that process. But back to the tactics. If anybody has any tips on how I could try to being fully cognizant of the fact that I'm running the Alpha 5 and we're not looking to load test anything for production really, but I would like to see what I can, how I could press that verifier and see where I start to have problems. If anybody has any ideas, I'm on the TLSNotary server on Discord all the time. We don't have to address it here, but I would sure appreciate any tips there. Thanks.
Yeah, I would just set up a fixture application server. We do have one there in the repo. It's TLSN server fixture.
Okay.
And yeah, you'll just want to basically spin up a bunch of concurrent provers that are all just hammering your are you running the notary server? How are you running the verifier? I mean,
No, it's just it's from the interactive prover. I'm sorry, I think it's called the verifier server. I could be remembering that wrong, branch in the TLSNJS repo. And
oh,
I've
I see.
modified that it's where the prover and the verifier are separated. Unlike the interactive demo in the main TLS
Yep.
TL repo, it's that other one. So I've just got the verifier out there, and I run my prover locally from my from my Linux machine or my Mac or my Windows. I have various prover binaries, and then they can hit that verifier out on DigitalOcean and engage in an MPC session while
Okay.
it's logging into the
Okay.
application server.
Yep. Yeah, I would just run a like a application server fixture locally, and then yeah, I mean just hammer the
Okay.
verifier is. I'm assuming that the verifier is set up to like accept multiple connections and process
Yes.
things concurrently. So yeah, if it's ready to do that, the only thing you want to avoid, I guess, is just like hammering like an actual like application server's API. You
Right.
don't they probably don't want you like testing just random stuff against them. But yeah, like assuming that like the application, the content of the application data itself doesn't actually matter. The
Right.
server fixture will help you do that. It's also the API of it has some like query parameters for specifying like how much data do you want to like emulate. So you can set that to be close to what you expect to actually come from your target
Right.
application's API. And just give it a shot and see what it does. Um, and
That's a
yeah,
good point.
doing it over the internet is probably gonna give you the best results. We do have some stuff, although it's probably not flexible enough for what you want to do for just doing like local network simulation. But the only way
Right.
to like get a real sense of what like concurrent load is gonna feel like for the verifier is to do it like actually over the internet where there's a lot of like asynchrony there. And
Okay.
yeah,
That's helpful. Thank you.
I was curious if you grokked the some of the stuff that we're showing in the extension there. Just like the high level
Yes.
idea for I guess the client side of a of an application story here. Uh,
Yes.
okay.
I have rightly or wrongly, I have approached it a little bit differently where, and it would be great to be corrected either here or elsewhere. But since the client process is really supposed to be going out periodically, the prover, let's say for purposes of this conversation, every 4 hours, and doing a check of invoice status and proving that in conjunction with the verifier, is it really is more of a background. And we talked about this a little bit at the Hacker
Oh,
House, but
right.
the
Yeah.
user experience, it's more like running as a tray icon, and if something's going wrong, it'll turn red, but or whatever you might imagine for the application.
Mhm.
But there is this need to have a controller or the ability to configure that prover, and so what I'm working on right now is an IPC controlled Rust binary prover that has a little Electron app that lets you configure it, via a GUI
Yeah.
with a native, and then like it goes away. The user interface user interaction goes away, and it shouldn't bother you unless there's a problem with authenticating to the application server. So my
Yeah.
model's a little bit different. It's made me mentally move away from the browser environment, but I
Yeah.
at the same time I'm totally excited by what was shown today. So not to take away from it, my head is in just a little bit different space with what I'm developing. And it may be that I do go back to the browser. That may need to happen.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's a good example of when you don't need something like this plugin system. It's a very application specific thing.
Yes.
We do hope that the verifier side plugin stuff might end up helping eventually. But yeah, no,
Right.
no, that makes sense to me.
Thanks, Sinu.
More questions? Or anybody that wants to pitch the project he's building? Then maybe you want to talk about the hackathon you did?
Yeah, sure. So so my teammates are here also, Brian, Luis, and basically, I think since a month ago when I started to look into TLSN, I started to try to see like what could be built. I'm still trying to get my head around the code base. I go and try to read a little bit every day to see if one day it will click. I still haven't, but I think building have been the best way to actually learn a little bit more. So there was this hackathon, and then we thought, okay, let's try to build something. And then the first like problem that we saw that TLSN could solve was this using email proofs to control wallets, basically because of UX, without having to. I think there are still trust assumptions, but I think it felt cleaner to use TLSN. So we created a smart contract wallet that uses email proofs generated by TLSN. We're still using the interactive flow, like we haven't done it's not very complex on the TLSN part. And we are using the Google API. And basically, how the how the smart wallet works is you just use the email proofs to add or remove signers. We didn't want to generate a proof every time you send a transaction because that could be a little bit, it could be a worse UX than just signing with your Face ID. So we added the secure enclave. And then for you to control your wallet, you can use your email proofs to add or remove sign. And also you can send crypto to non-crypto users with just their email, which basically we built an ASCO contract where later the user can claim it, or at least it's automatically claimed once they sign in on the app. So that's the first thing we thought about. And then we were later on also thinking about what could be next. And actually, what we were thinking to implement, and maybe I can ask Sukin about it, is it was also an extension that would have it would be the wallet itself, so the same Secure Enclave wallet, but a wallet that can also notarize or basically generate proofs of others' data. So it would be basically like the TLSN notary extension today, but with the wallet part integrated. So basically for the dev, he doesn't, or the user, he doesn't need to open, like let's say he wants to send a transaction that needs a notary proof. He wouldn't need to open MetaMask and then also open a notary extension. So I'm not sure if this is something that the TLSN notary team would be open to implement, because I guess being a wallet is out of the scope. But I just wanted to also maybe get some feedback on what you guys think about it, because I think it's really interesting to allow users to have everything in one place. So when interacting with a app, yeah, not sure if this is good.
From a product perspective, I do think they kind of belong to each other. Like because a wallet in some way is just a way to sign message, which is a
hmm
type of proof itself. So it's like some kind of proof credential manager. Um, as a product, I think it makes sense. As a users in Web3, I also think it will be very beneficial to be able to access these different kind of proof or signature from one product. In terms of complexity, I tend to be kind of aggressive when it comes to evaluating complexity. I think it's not that difficult to include to include a full feature wallet inside the extension. Because the Web3 library is pretty well written and well maintained by this point. There's also many reference implementation of different wallet in the space. Yeah, that's kind of my opinion.
Yeah, like one thing that I was, I could say envisioning was, because right now, the reason why I think TLSN, like I would literally say like took my heart, like I am really excited about it. It's because I feel this is a great tool to build even better UX than Web2 have today. When I think better UX is like it's the user flow is as good as it is, but it allows us to also have features of composability which Web2 doesn't have. So it's I say like it's not that we are trying to get UX as good as Web2, but now better UX than Web2. And from there, what I see is the Zap wallet would be the first step where like, okay, people can just onboard just using their email. And from like once they created it, then they would have something like the Coinbase web wallet or like very, very seamless integration on the browser where like once they create their email on the app, they go to the browser just with their email, everything is connected and they can start generating proofs and interacting with these apps. That's something that came to mind. Yeah, when thinking about like how TLSN could bring us this better than Web2 experiences. So yeah, just sharing my thoughts. Maybe we'll try something like this during the EID Brussels. We want to progress towards bringing great UX to Web3. So yeah, but I appreciate and yeah, we'd love to talk more with you, Tsukino, to see like where if the TLSN team would be open to doing something like this, or like, of course, we can always do it as like a separate project and keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, reach out to me or Hendrik.
Yep.
We're happy to chat.
So you will be at Eat Global Brussels?
Yes, I will be there.
Yeah.
We are already planning on hacking on TLSN and staying close to you guys.
Super. I look forward to meet you in person and congratulations again on the win.
Thank you. It was definitely thanks to all the works you guys put on it.
Cool. Other user stories or questions? There's one in the chat. So Rami asked the Google API. I think that was just for as an example of a web page that. Oh no, it was the Google API for Zap from then. Rami, maybe you can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, hello guys. So I'm curious about TLSN and experimenting with the extension as well. And I got to a situation where I got to do external calls to a certain API. And I think Tsukini who said he's building with MV3 as well. And I was curious how to do external calls in MV3 because you can't really do those because it's restricted because of content security policy. It was allowed in MV2 for those of you who got context on Google extension development, but yeah, now it's kind of restricted. So yeah, I'm basically asking for a workaround if there's any. Thank you.
Yeah, what kind of calls are you trying to make? Just a regular web request?
Yeah. Just a call to an API endpoint. Yeah.
Mm.
So let's say just some Google API.
Yeah, so I share my manifest JSON file. You can check in the link. I think the issue that you're seeing likely is not just MV3 error. It is probably happen in manifest version 2 as well. Because they actually didn't change that much for content security policy. The part that they changed with regards to requests is the web request blocking permissions um, that allow extensions to intercept a request and then block it or modify what that request is. They basically did it so that like it's more difficult to build ad blockers you know for because they're Google. Yeah, check out the manifest JSON. If it doesn't work after you kind of like reference it, feel free to send me your sample code. I can take a look.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, anybody else want to add something? No? Okay, then I'll just do this reminder that so we host a test notary server. So please use it to test and bootstrap your applications, but remember to not build your business on it. And then I think we can wrap up. So I want to thank you all for input, and then see you next
I think
time.
we need to, sorry, just mention one last point that slipped my mind. So we've released Alpha 6 for the core TLSNotary library. The extension, if you're using that, or if you're using like our TLS which technically isn't a public API, if you are using those things, we haven't done a release for those, which uses Alpha 6 just yet. So you might have to be a little bit patient if you do want to try out Alpha 6, or you're going to be, you can't do it in the browser. But yeah, we're working out a couple issues right now, but we should be able to get it out soon. We're targeting next week. But yeah, just to let you know, if you're pulling up the extension, make sure that the protocol version that the extension is using, which the current one is Alpha 5, it matches the version of the notary that you're running. So if you're trying to run a local notary server off of our main branch, that'll be running Alpha 6. So just make sure you check out the Alpha 5 tag, otherwise you're going to run into issues. And then yeah, back to you, Hendrik.
Yeah, but that was it. So thanks again, and see you next time.
Good. See you guys.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.